Mr. Bertone, how you doing?
Pretty good, mate. Pretty good. How you going?
Um, so the
I know
honest,
the answer. I know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know why I asked.
the honest truth is, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the preview and whatnot. Like, I'm nervous and all of that. But as soon as you jump on board, like the competitive edge kicks in, and I'm like, "Fuck's sake, Kilda!" But no, I'm going well. We're out of lockdown, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you must be buzzing with the news of Kerno, mate. That's at least a bit of a highlight for your week.
Yeah.
The fact
For
that he,
sure, for sure. I mean,
yeah,
Charlie's a big piece of our energy, and it's almost. I mean, can you imagine? No, touch wood. Obviously, Max King, your centerpiece of your future. Missing for 2 years. Obviously, we've got Harry Mackay, who's really emerged this year, and we were blessed to have drafted two key pillars for our build. So to have him back, yeah, it's exciting, but also you kind of got to you can't put expectations on him. You just got to hope that he gets through.
yeah.
So yeah, listen, mate, it's good to have you on. For those of you who are on the Blue Abroad channel who don't know who Jake is, Jake, why don't you give us some insight? And I guess your fans will be watching too. Who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Who am I? Yeah, I guess I run Saints TV. I created it in 2018. Basically, just decided to hop on Facebook Live right after games in the car park, basically in Marvel Stadium, and give my reaction because maybe as Carlton fans know, the club wasn't performing back then. Maybe you guys are going through a similar thing now, and it's just a place for fans to come and vent and give their full emotion. There's no other outlet. I think when you talk to other fans, it's just the best feeling. Even after a loss, you kind of feel a bit better. So I wanted to create a platform for that. And yeah, it's kind of evolved from there. Podcasts, merch has come out. A lot of people messaging about fan cams because of you, Terry. So a lot of people want to get on and have a chat. So started that last week and hopefully doing it this weekend as well. And yeah, just a mad saint, just wanting to bring some saintly love to the world.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think you're right. I think there is something in that for us as fans to have the outlet. I think it's important because obviously we've moved into the digital world, and previously it was you call your mates on the phone, you have those conversations, and sort of to have somewhere where you can all congregate and get together. And yeah, I think it was, to be honest, it was really important for me personally in 2020 because we had the long lockdown.
Yeah.
And just to have, you have the game as the escape, then you have the fan cams as that further couple of hours to really connect with people who you've never met. Yeah, it's cool. It's mate, it's cool to see the journey of just fan channels in general. They're really starting to emerge. I think there's going to be one for every channel eventually. So it's cool to be part of this, I don't know, like this early industry almost, because media is evolving.
Yeah. Well, it's only really been, would you say, the last 3 years in the AFL? I'd say it's probably taken off. And then before that, it was really through the EPL, wasn't it? And we're both Arsenal fans, so it's kind of adapted from that.
Yeah, well, we've both had a very, I would say, similar path in that being Arsenal fans, we both have had some sort of an interaction with Arsenal fan TV.
Yeah.
And we're kind of bringing the fan model to Australia and to footy fans. I always felt, I mean, I'm sure you're the same. A lot of people used to say, oh, it would never work. We don't have that many fans. It's not a global sport. Whereas my attention was more so on, well, we're just as passionate, and it doesn't matter about having a million
Yes.
subscribers. We're just as passionate
Yeah.
about our teams.
Exactly. Like even before I did Saints after a loss, I'd get on the phone to my uncle, and he's a mad Saint as well. He's the reason why I'm a Saints fan. And the calls would go for 2.5 hours. And I'm like, we're just going around in circles talking about the game. And now it's like there's thousands and thousands of people out there that would want to do the same thing. Just talk for hours about a game. It's because it's their life for a lot of people. I live and breathe Saints. The girlfriend, she's getting into it, which is great, but it's something that I hold very close to my heart. So it's good to share it with everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. Now, listen, last year I came onto your podcast and I was giving you How are you gonna? I think you guys. I think I came and classic Carlton supporter started getting a bit cocky.
You were confident. You were very confident.
I was like, how are you going to stop Jacob Wiedering and blah blah blah. And I mean, look, I always back my boys in, and I'm angry at them at the moment because of what happened last week and the lack of effort at times. We're a little inconsistent at the moment. I still believe in the group and all that, but give us a snapshot of the Saints, because I've obviously been watching as many games as most of us, and you've had some bad losses, some really bad losses, and some good wins too. So what's your picture?
We are the enigma of the AFL. We are the most unpredictable team in the comp. We've lost a game by 111 points. Like, it's hard to believe. I was sitting there and I saw that happen. And then I sit in my living room and I watch us dismantle Brisbane coming off 10 of 11 wins, you know? So we're sort of that team where like fans, there's a percentage of us that think we're in with a chance with every game we play. And it's because we know our best is good enough, because we played finals last year. We've beaten good teams. We've beaten Port. We've beaten Richmond. We've beaten Brisbane, the Bulldogs, not Melbourne, but most of the top teams in the last 2 years. So we're capable. We're just a bit mentally fractured at times when the pressure's on. So I'd say when the game's on our terms, we're a very good team. But if Carlton bring the pressure on Friday night, which I think they have to with everything that's been going on, if you bring the pressure, there's a chance that, that's going to test us, because that's our downfall this year, is teams that just bring that relentless pressure and breaks us down. Our years have been crazy. First 10 weeks, we lost 5 games by, I think, 50 points plus. And the second half of the year, we'd be probably top 4 in terms of win-loss and percentage, because our losses have been pretty small. So, but I think, what's your biggest loss of the year margin-wise? Because I feel like it's not very high. You've just had a lot of kind of average losses over the way.
Yes. So last week was the biggest margin that we've lost by in the last 2 seasons, actually.
Against North.
So you want to talk about an enigma. It's so hard to get a read on where things are at. We were lucky to have Luke Power come on the channel, and I chatted with him, and he spoke about the fact that, we're not getting blown out, and so to speak. And there's always we just don't have those 10-goal losses anymore, which we were having 3 or 4 of them a year from 2016, 17, 18, even, early 2019. And so, okay, yes, it's good that we're not getting blown out anymore. But the measuring stick for us is not about not getting blown out. It's for me, it's got to be about wins and losses. And I think we're in this phase of this build where, ultimately this year so far, it's been, you've either passed the test or you've failed the test. And I think we failed the test this so far. Whether or not finals was a realistic ambition or not, I don't think is relevant, because I just feel like it's about having a winning season. Now, you can have a winning season and not make finals because you play 22 or 23 games. But yeah, it seems like every 4 to 5 weeks we have, a game where the effort is just poor. It falls off. In this case, it was the third quarter against North. It was just non-existent. It was just, we got chopped up. And I guess the fear for me this week coming up against you guys is when you guys are at your best, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just an outsider's opinion. When you guys are at your best, you're at Marvel, you're under the roof, you're running with that energy, and you're chopping up teams in the corridor. And that is one thing we have not got right this year. We cannot, our corridor defensive mechanism is looser than Riley Reid. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I watched the North game last week. I watched it, and that third quarter, you're 100% right. North, it was just training drill stuff. And North, everyone knows that's the way they want to, they want to play. They want to go through the guts. They take risky kicks. When it works, it looks great. When it doesn't, they lose badly. And against the Blues, far out, they just sliced you up. So I'd be very surprised if we don't try to look into the corridor at every opportunity. On Friday night.
There's the formula.
It is, but you say Marvel's kind of where we play our best footy. I can't remember the last game we played that was just a good 4-quarter performance at Marvel. We're struggling at Marvel this year, mate. We are very good at the MCG. I think we've won 8 games for the year, and 5 of them were away from Marvel. And those were our best wins on bigger grounds. I find Marvel actually just doesn't allow us to spread the ground and use our leg speed even more, because we love to use the width as well as the center. So I think it actually plays into your hands a little bit. I don't know. I just have a feeling it just makes it more of a contest. And if the game opens up, that's when we can get you.
Yeah.
But if you keep it in and ugly, I don't know, that could give you your best chance.
Yeah. I find you guys had this energy about you last year, and you built the momentum and you just kept riding it. And obviously this year you've had some, you've had the poor losses and the disjoints things. And I guess you said it before, you're not sure, like you're unpredictable. You're hard to get a read on. I guess it's interesting. Which position would you rather be? Would you rather be in a position where when you lose, it never really blows out to more than, 6 or 7 goals? Or would you rather have, 3 or 4 wins against the final sides and then, a couple of really poor? I don't know. I don't know who I'd rather.
Who would you rather be? Because I've got my answer already. Well, easy.
The best answer for me is at the end of the year, when I find out who finishes higher on the ladder and who's in the 8 and who's not in the 8. Because if we were to finish, I don't think it's possible now, but if we were to finish in the 8 and have 3 beltings, winning is what matters to me. Finals football is what matters to me. Mm-hmm. So in that case, if you guys do make finals, I'd rather be you.
Yeah. I'm glad that we had the losses that we had in the year, because since the bye, we've changed.
Yeah.
We lost to Port, but we were level with them with 3 minutes to go and a couple of dodgy kicks from the back line, and we turned it over. They kick goals, we lose, but we were in with a winning chance there. West Coast, we were down all day, but King almost single-handedly won us the game, and we only lost by 8. And we've lost to Sydney by, I think, 9 points, and Adelaide before that was 6. That was the worst one, but they're all under 2-3 goals, so before that, they would have blown out to 50-point losses. But I think the thing for me is with something after that Adelaide game clicked in. They did a members Q&A. The players, they always say it, but the players sat down and had some home truths. They talked honestly about each other. Every club says it, but not every club backs it up with change. And right after the bye, we flogged Richmond, we flogged Collingwood, we flogged Brisbane. We should have beaten Port and West Coast. So there's some change there. Whereas, with Carlton, the way I look at it is, do you know where the change is going to come from right now?
So, what's fascinating about us too, and I'd love to get the outsider's opinion. I believe we have the best young spine in the league in, the pillars, Wiedering, Walsh and Harry Mackay. Now, there's an argument to be made that Wiedering will be in the All-Australian team by virtue of the fact that he's had a really good season, apart from last week's game. Darcy Moore's been injured for a majority of the year, and so as Harris Andrews. Mackay has been leading the Coleman for the majority of the year, so you would think that if he ends up winning the Coleman or, very close, he's probably going to make it. And then Walsh, the midfield's a hard one because there's so many great midfielders. And I don't know, do you see the same thing? Like, have you seen the 3 of them as like all Australian candidates on the outside, or are we just getting a little too caught up in our boys?
Wiedering's probably my pick there, because I know midfield, there's so many. So it's hard to fit in. I mean, for example, Jack Steele only made the bench last year and he had an enormous year.
He did.
You know what I mean? And even now this year, he's been even better than last year. And people still think, he might just make the bench. I think he should be starting centre with Bont and Petrarca. Walsh definitely in the team, maybe bench, but that's kind of where I see him right now. So he probably makes it. He probably sneaks in. And Mackay, I think, it'd be between him and maybe Hawkins, I don't know, and maybe Tex. You can't discount Tex Walker. He's had a great year as well. Yeah. But like they're all probably top 10, top 5 in their position this year. Walsh should be top 5 mids at the moment. Wiedering's the best fullback, and then obviously Mackay's Coleman medal chance. It just, to me, it's just kind of like after those 3 or your top 4 or 5, there's a bit of I don't know if you feel the same, but there seems to be a bit of a drop with. It goes from A grade to C grade straight away almost? Where's the B potential A graders coming through and players that complement them?
Well,
I don't
that's
know if
the
you
thing.
see it.
Like we've got this core, and then it's
Mm.
like, it's just so strange to think that we could have three, let's say two of the, they'll all make the squad at a minimum, I would think. So we've got three players judged in the best 40 of the comp, and they all play in a different position, and we still can't get the ball rolling in terms of making the 8. We haven't won 3 games in a row in years. And so it's like, it's frustrating. However, it's exciting because you've got young talent that are really leading the group. And then it's kind of like, okay, do we need to step back and readjust our expectations? And then it's like, no, your expectations never change. You drive the expectations as a fan base. And you're right. It's kind of like after them, it drops off. Now, Cripps is an interesting one. Everyone loves Patrick Cripps. I have really heavily implored him to lead from the front this week because, shout out to DG Designs. You look at the two things we've got here that she's created. And I actually look at the Cripps and Steele matchup as an interesting one. And if you remember, like Jack Steele used to tag Cripps,
Yeah.
And I remember at the time thinking, well, Jack Steele's just an Aldi version of Cripps, like he's just not as good as Cripps and he's learning. He's never going to be as good as him. I can't sit here and tell you that Jack Steele hasn't soared past Cripps. And look, granted, our skipper has been injured. Last year was shocking. This year, early in the year, he's injured, but he's healthy now. He says he's healthy now. Coach says he's healthy now. And it's like, when can you start putting expectations? And for me personally, I don't speak on all the fans, but for me personally, he's just not playing with the same grunt and intensity and that he used to. There's been a couple of games where he's had 10 tackles, which is really what he made his name on. No different to Jack Steele. Like I look at Jack Steele, I don't look at the possessions. It's like, I know I'm going to see 7 minimum tackles on, next to his name. And that's kind of just where I want to see Cripps back to. I don't need to see 30 touches anymore because Walsh will do it. I just want to see him cracking in and being the force that he is,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a good example. Last week, Steele was quiet. He had 18 touches, but he had 13 tackles. So he balanced it out almost with as many tackles. So I see where you're coming from there. Does Cripps need to take a step back? Do you think at times he feels like he needs to do too much? Because I've read a lot, even Carlton supporters think he's still in that mindset of maybe 5 years ago, maybe even before Walsh, where he was the main man. He's like, I've got to do this all on my own. Because I remember I was there, I think, a couple of years ago where you beat Brisbane at Marvel against all odds. And he had a ridiculous game. He kicked 3 or 4. He had 30. He ran rings around everyone. And I was like, this is the best mid in the comp.
Yep.
Since then, I haven't really seen that performance. And I'm wondering, is he struggling to understand where he fits into the midfield? Is he the best player? Is Walsh the best player? Does he need to do less, do more? What do you think?
I just think he needs to get back to the basics.
Yeah.
The fundamental things that actually, everyone's picture of Patrick Cripps and what he built his reputation on was being the bull, the biggest, strongest midfielder in the league, who was a force, who tackled like it was his life. And, he's had a couple of games this year where he's done that. The Melbourne game, the Hawthorn game, and I think the Gold Coast game where he had 10 tackles. And look, I can't expect him to have 10 tackles every week, but 7+ I think is reasonable for a guy who's one wood, if you want to call it, is his contested work. He's a young captain. He's evolving. I have the utmost love and patience for him. I think last week was a little disappointing because in that third quarter, it's like, as a fan, who do you look to when things don't go well? You look to your captain. That's kind of the one that sets the tone. And I just, up until 3/4 time, he had 12 touches and then he kicked a couple in the fourth quarter and salvaged the game. And it was a bit different last week. Harry was out, so he had to play a little bit more forward. But for me, it's like, if it doesn't start from the top, where is it going to start from? The notion of where is the help for Cripps? Well, Sam Walsh is more than help for Cripps,
Yeah.
So
He's doing everything, isn't he, Walsh? He's having a freakish year.
yeah, he's a third-year player, and he, had a game last week where he was tagged and, lowered his colours a little bit, and he still had 27. He gave away 5 free kicks, which is, not great, but, he's a third-year player. He's having a phenomenal year. And you touched on something before about, if Carlton come with the intensity and hunt you guys, that'll get us undone. And I mean, I agree. My only thing is, can we do it for long enough? Because we can do it. There's always like a 10-minute patch or a 15-minute patch, or in the case of last week, a quarter, where it's just like, if the Saints get on a run and you kick 2 or 3 or 4 in a row, it'll become 5 or 6 in a row. And I guess that's kind of where my trepidation comes from. But I do expect there to be a response. I mean, I'm not sure with your bad losses this year, the real bad ones, was there like a sharp response the week after for all of them?
I think for most, except for probably between round 2 and 5, where we lost to Melbourne, and then I think Essendon beat us by 70, and then we beat West Coast out of the blue, and then got pumped by Richmond the next week. So we won, and then we're like, we're back, and then we lose to Richmond by 86 or something. And we're like, no, we're not back yet. They just papered over the cracks. So it's like, you got to really fix the foundation first. And I'm just curious if Carlton fans are supportive of the coach at the moment. There's a lot of question marks. There's more questions than answers. That's how it always is with these sort of situations. So are you of the belief you're playing the football that you want to see? I mean, when I watch Carlton, I feel like they could move the ball faster at times, be a bit more aggressive. There's a lot of kicking and just chipping around. I don't know. Do you like the way you play?
I'll be honest, I don't know what the Carlton way of playing is. That's the honest truth. Tiggy talks about playing our way, the Carlton way, the trademark, and I love David Teague, but and again, I don't know what the rest of our fans think. I do not know. I can't sit here and tell you what is the Carlton way of playing, what our method is, because I look at our team. You got Sard and Williams that we added last year, so I felt like, we're going to be a little bit more of a running team, a team that uses the handball a little bit more. David Teague's philosophy is a kicking style. I don't really know if we are a kicking team, because I don't think we have the decision-making or the disposal efficiency to be a kicking team. It seems like the game plan is bomb it long, create a spillage, hope that Harry marks it, and then like crumb a goal, or, create a spillage and lock it in our forward half. But we just haven't really like locked into a patch of form for me where I'm like, that's what we're going to want to do every week. So I don't really know what to look out for, because it changes week to week. And we are, as much as I hate to say it, we're not a system-based team. We are an individual brilliance-based team.
Yeah, I was thinking that, we're talking about Wiedering, Walsh, and Mackay. You've got 3 stars in 3 sections of the ground. Do the other players, the lesser players, the players that we talk about, the Bs and C graders, these guys that fill the gaps in the bottom 10 to 15 on the ground, do they look at them and think, they'll do the bulk of the work, I don't really need to do it? I'm sure they don't think that, but when you see Harry flying for everything and he's marking 5 of 6, you probably don't get to the ground ball as much, because you're like, he'll take care of it. Wiedering in the back line, the other defenders think, he's got it covered. Walsh will get the clearance. I don't really need to work as hard. Do you think that could be something that could just subconsciously be spread across certain players, or is that a bit of a stretch?
This is where I think the injuries may have played a factor in everyone knowing their role. But I mean, look, even when we were healthy, there has been a bit of confusion amongst the fans about where the players play. Now, what we've done with this group is we don't really have too many like specialists. We've got, 10 midfielders, or let's say 8 or 9 midfielders who rotate through the forward line as well. So it could be a case of, how do they know what they're completely supposed to be doing if they're being told to do 2 or 3 things? And maybe that's something that's going to pay off for us in the long run. We're definitely a team that likes to play players not in their natural position, but in a way that's going to further their development. Now, over the last few weeks, we've finally seen Paddy Dow back in the midfield, and he's stayed there. and he started to actually show a little bit. I think Matt Kennedy is another one that started to show a bit, even though last week he went forward. We've got young Liam Stocker, who we really rate on our end, who as a future, leader. He's been playing in the back line all year, and we've been told by Luke Powell that's part of his development. Learn the defensive side of your game, and then eventually you might move into the midfield. So I think, I don't know is the answer. I wish I did, but I think it's got something to do with the fact that they're just not settled completely in what they need to do week to week, because it changes. And that is sometimes due to injury. That is sometimes due to the fact that, players are being put in positions where they're still developing in those roles and those talents and those skills. So it's hard, but, ultimately all of that, okay, yes, I'll take it all into account, but the intensity in which we apply ourselves, I just question it. You will see on Friday night, I hope you don't, but you will probably see broken tackles from our boys. We don't.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, you'll know if you see the broken tackles from like Petrevsky, Seaton and the like, you will know that you're getting on top of us.
Well, that leads us into the game.
Yeah.
How do we, ins and outs, let's just talk about that for a sec, because there's a few, well, there's one big in, and then maybe Eddie Betts, I heard, is probably not going to get up. Mackay, touch and go. Is he a chance or?
So Zach Williams. Zach Williams.
Zach Williams
last week, so he's not going to play. Eddie Betts won't play as well. He's hurt himself. So there's two immediate changes or forced changes. We know that Charlie Curnow is going to play. Teague said that if he got through training, he would play. He got through training, so he'll play. I also think we're going to debut Brody Kemp, who we draft. I'm not sure if you know the story of Kemp. He slid because he did his ACL in his draft year. He was rated right up there with Rowell and the like before he did his injury. So he's going to play. He's been training as a defender all year. He did his ankle as well after coming back from the ACL. So he's finally healthy. So I think he'll debut. I think Charlie will play. And then there's a matter of, are you going to drop some players for form? We've got Lockie O'Brien, who was in the draft with Caulfield and Hunter Clark. He hasn't played since round 1 or 2, and we don't really know where is he at. Is he going to stay with the club? We don't really know. So it's kind of like, do you play him for a month? So he's one that I will flag as a potential in for, I don't know, it could be like a Cottrell type. But those two, they're my best guesses. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think Harry's going to play based on the language. And I think the injury is a little bit more serious than what we first thought it would be. So what about your end?
The big out's probably Sinclair. He kicked a goal late last week and then kind of just grabbed his hamstring. So I think he just pulled it a bit there. I don't think it's anything serious, but just a week off just to get it right. But the good thing is Marshall will be back. Hunter Clark, I believe, has gotten through training and he's coming back for his first game since his broken jaw. Jack Higgins will be back, and Tom Highmore as well. And I think Mackenzie was a chance, but he's still got some concussion symptoms from that heavy tackle against Port. So there's 4 there. 4 of our starting 18 will be back, and we lose 1. So it's good that all year it just felt like we get 1 back, we lose 2. We get 1 back, we lose 2, and we just haven't had the full 22 we want on the ground. But Friday night's team should be the strongest we've fielded all year. We'd only be missing from our best maybe Gresham, Patton, Hanbury, and Sinclair. And Hanbury's a stretch. So maybe 3 of our best 22 are missing from Friday night. So and maybe Paddy will miss. I've heard that he's a bit of touch and go as well off a 6-day break. But with Rowe back, I don't think it hurts us as much as, missing other players. So should be a strong lineup.
Yeah. So for Carlton,
yeah,
there's always one smaller forward that gets us. So it's like a Jack Billings type or a Gresham. Do the Saints have that same thing where they, we'll call it play a player into form? Do you have that same thing as well, where that certain type of player always seems to get you?
We always play There's just always a tall forward that just gets off the chain for us at least, because our back line would be close to the most undersized in the comp. We've got Dougal Howard, who's 202 or something, but then after that it drops off a bit. You've got Wilkie, who's like 190, Caulfield's about the same, Highmore's about the same. So there's a bit of a gap there. And when we play teams that have the Kennedy and Darlings like last week, and Oscar Allen's the week before was Dixon, Georgiades, and Todd Marshall, I think. They've got that sort of height that causes us problems. Mackay out could be the big difference in the game, because if you've got Kerno, Mackay, maybe a resting ruck or something down there, that stretches us, and that's been the issue for us. But with Highmore back, it just means, I don't know, Wilkie can take the second tall, and then we've got Highmore and Caulfield who can intercept, because our game's based on rebound. It's the same as last year. It just hasn't worked as often.
So you wait.
Sinclair's a loss. Hey?
Wait for the turnover and then go?
It's turnover or, get the intercept mark. So Wilkie would love to leave his man, gets the mark, and then it's basically give it to Sinclair or Hill and gone. Because Hill's playing off half back now, which has gotten his form back, which is great. And he's probably going to have a bigger role with Sinks out as well to create that energy for us. Yeah.
Okay. Who's a player for you guys who's like in a hot patch of form over the last, couple of weeks that maybe I wouldn't have picked?
Hot patch of form over the last couple of weeks. I mean, Jack Steele probably doesn't count. I don't know. The team in itself has been pretty even. Butler's slowly getting back into form. He had 20 last week and kicked 2. So that was his best game of the year. He played more from the wing, moving back into the 50 as opposed to just sitting in the 50. So he got a lot of the ball running back towards goal, which was great. And that's how he loves to kick his goals. So having him in that form is good timing. Before that, I'd say Rowan Marshall was looking very nice before he had to go into isolation. Mm-hmm. So him back is huge, because he rests forward. He just takes that pressure off King. So hypothetically, if we've got King, Membry, and Rowe at forward at once, which will be likely at times, who goes to the other talls? Who goes to Membry and then Marshall? Because King and Wiedering's obviously locked in.
Yeah.
So who goes to the others?
It's a Liam Jones on the next best. And then Lockie Plowman will generally take the next.
Yeah.
Now, Lockie Plowman is an interesting one because he will play on a small forward like a Michael Walters or a Charlie Cameron. And then he'll also play on like a resting ruckman, like a Radigaleo, or even like an Oscar Allen. So Plowman's probably that next in line in terms of a tall. But that's very interesting. I mean, we aren't as tall of a team as what we usually are when we're at our best, because we've had like injuries to just a lot of players. It's no excuse, because you can always adjust your game plan. I'm hoping that we're going to be a little bit more of a quicker side this week, what we should be over the last few weeks. But it's interesting. I thought you might have said that about who was in form, because you do seem like a team that's very spread out, which is, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, like we last year, I think it was just Steele that made All Australian. This year, probably again, maybe just Steele if he keeps his form up.
Yeah.
He finished top 3 in the Brownlow. I reckon he can go top 5 again with the way he's been polling. But yeah, you're right. It's hard to pick like more than outside Steele from an outside perspective, because it's so focused on him. But yeah, I think we are fairly even across the board. And that was the same last year. People wouldn't really know who Wilkie was. They didn't really rate Caulfield, but they just did their jobs every week.
Yeah.
And Wilkie's the same. So Wilkie and Plowman sound like kind of similar types, in that he'll play on a small, but then he can also play on like a Darling type from last week. So, where do you think come Friday, what's your best chance? Like, what do you need to do to win? I know we talked about pressure, but it needs to be more than that. You can tackle, you can create turnover all you want, but when you get the ball in hand, what do you need to do?
What we need to do is lower the eyes and stop playing so predictable. It might work in the first quarter where we bomb it long and create a spillage and lock it in, but teams like the Saints, every team this year has really figured it out over the course of 4 quarters. So we need to find a way for our players, when they've got the ball in hand, to make the right decisions, lower the eyes for long enough. I think it's easier said than done. As the game gets on, fatigue kicks in. You don't have that same level of concentration. But if we can be unpredictable with the way we move the ball forward and lower the eyes and actually lead at the football, forward of center, I think that's going to go a long way to helping us stay in the game. Also, I'll know straight away if our midfield pressure is where it needs to be, because that's what got us undone last week and the week before, and really all season when we don't play well. Our defense is actually really good. I know that we've conceded 100 points, I think 8 times this year, but our back 6 is actually solid. It's unfortunately the midfield is not working hard enough when the ball gets turned over or when it doesn't go their way. Yeah. So I'm going to be looking out for really those 2 things: the midfield pressure, and when we kick the ball inside 50, how are we kicking it inside 50? And are we lowering our eyes? That's really how I think we'll win the game,
Well, it could be a blessing with Harry out. It might force you. And with Kerno coming back, obviously, it'd be easy to just bomb it to him because everyone's excited. He's back in the team. Let's see what he can do and kick 7 again like the last time he played, which is probably unlikely. But it might be a blessing. You might need to look for other options now because there's not that tall forward, that Coleman medal chance forward down there. And that was the same with us when we lost Rewalt. It kind of forces you to kick to Membry more, to Bruce, to Billings. It just opens it up. So I don't know. It could make it harder for our defense to man up.
Yeah. What about you? How do you see the game playing out?
Honestly, I really hope it's similar to how we played against Brisbane a few weeks ago. It was just, it's easy to say, but it's just, our game is, we're so good when our pressure is through the roof, and we just turn it over and we just run in waves. Like we just overwhelm the opposition with the amount of numbers we get to the ball. But it's not just at the contest, it's when it comes out. So I don't want us to, we're at our worst when I watch us and Steele goes in and Dunstan and Crouch. They all go in for the same ball and then we win it and there's no one on the outside. But we're at our best when we just go, all right, Steele, you're in. He gets it. And then it's flicked out just instantly to Hill. And then he handballs it. And then there's 3 or 4 of us on one player. And then you've got everyone one-on-one in the 50. So if we get one-on-ones with King and we can isolate Marshall and Membry, and then that just makes it easy for them, all the smalls, if it comes to ground. But if you start intercepting everything and we're just bombing it, that's funny. I feel like every fan base, when their team's losing, they can just say, we just bomb it too much. Bombing is just like it's like the default excuse. We just fucking bomb it, mate. Like, it's like, well, there's probably more to your problem than just bombing. But like for us, under Alan Richardson, like 2 years ago, that's all we did. We'd have 70 inside 50s to 30 and lose the game because the opposition defenders had 20 intercept marks each, So we know, but if we, similar to you, if we lower the eyes, we get King on the lead, it could be a good game for us, but we don't know. Both supporter bases have got no idea how Friday's going to work.
Yeah. So are you ultra confident about this week?
I'm not ultra confident. I'm confident because, like I said, our form, although we've lost the last 2 weeks, they were both games we should have won. We should have beaten Port. And if we had have had Rowan Marshall instead of Paul Hunter in the ruck last week against Nick Nat, I probably think we win that game. We lost by 8 points without Marshall and Higgins in the team. We've got them both back.
Yep.
And it's a big game for us. We win at the end of Friday night. I think we're in 8th, just for 24 hours until the next games are played, obviously, but the season's not done for us.
Yep.
So that I want us to go on with that mindset that it may be Carlton. They may be out of form, might be there for the taking, but these are the games we drop. Adelaide were there for the taking. We were 6 goals up. We lost. Port were there for the taking. They didn't have Fantasia, Dersma, Butters, Gray. They were missing all these guys. And we thought, they got no smalls, we'll win. We lost that. Now we need to take advantage of a team that's missing a few players, getting a player back after 2 years. out of form. Yeah, if you want to make finals, these are the games you win, you know?
Yeah,
As simple as that, really.
No,
Simple as
that's
that.
totally fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's go with a margin prediction and a I don't know, like a leading goal kicker prediction.
Okay. Well, I'll let you start.
All right,
Go for it.
It'll be the Blues by.
I just.
It'll be the Blues. We will respond. Cripps will lead from the front. He will have 9 tackles and 23 possessions. Walsh will have his 30. And we're going to win by 8 points in an absolute thrilling contest. And Charlie will kick 4 on return.
Oh, all right. You've dreamt about that a few times, haven't you, in the last week?
Well, he's going to get the ball kicked to him at least 13 times on Friday.
100%. He'll be 80% the forward target, won't he?
Yeah.
My prediction. All right. I'm going to go Saints by 33. I'm going to say that it's close for 3 quarters and then we kick 3 goals late, blows it out. But for the majority of the game, it'll be within 2 to 3 kicks either way.
Yeah.
Most goals, I'm going to go King again. If he can mark it like he did last week, King for 4. And, I'm going to go Steele 25 and 11 tackles.
Love it.
So
I hope they match up with each other. I think it's a great matchup. If they both, well, I know Steele will. Cripps, I'm hoping he will come to the party and really lead from the front. I think he will. The captain, it's been a devastating week and whatnot. So I just hope that it's a cracking contest, and I don't want to hear about how Carlton should never be on a Friday night. But
exactly. All of Twitter when they announced the fixture was like, how does Carlton Saints get Friday nights? Like, well, I think it's because of a lot of the other games were coming off 5-day breaks, and it was just a lot of logistics there. So it wasn't just they just picked us, but we want to put on a show. It'd be good to put on a good game on a Friday.
Yeah, I think so. Well, mate, listen, thanks so much for your time. I'm not going to say good luck because I don't mean it. So, but I hope that both teams get through with no injuries. How about that?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, mate. Good luck. I'll say it back. I don't mean it, but I will say it. And hopefully, I was going to say we should have a bet that the loser has to go on the other channel's fan cam and have a chat, but that might be a bit brutal. Who knows?
No, I'm down. I'm down.
You're down?
For that. Are you doing yours right after the game?
Potentially, yeah. I might do a bit of a review live, and then we'll hopefully get some people on. But we can talk about it on game day and see how we're both feeling.
I will 100% come on your fan cams if we lose. You have yourself a deal.
All right, sounds good.
All right, mate.
Take care, mate.